Yo, what is up, YouTube? I'm Blitz5, and today we're going to be doing another League of Legends champion reveal, and this is Tahm Kench, the River King. So I'm not exactly sure if this is how you pronounce his name, but just by using context clues, it seems like it is Tahm Kench, and we'll go by that until we hear otherwise. But right now, the backstory behind this character, well, the backstory to the release of this character is that it was released, I think, in China, some information, some footage of him in the game, and then it was subsequently taken down. And then I think League of Legends slash Riot Games went ahead and just released all the information a little bit early. Obviously Echo has just come out not so long ago, but they have been releasing champions pretty quickly now, so it does make sense that this character is about to come out, and I'm sure they can stall a little bit on the PBE, and within the next couple patches he'll be out. So it's not too soon, but soon enough to keep everybody interested. To me, I don't think League of Legends needs to be coming out with this many champions back to back to back, or this many in a year. I know they like to do this to keep the community and new players interested, but right now I think that there is a huge issue with a lot of the new characters. Not that they're totally game breaking, but they're definitely stronger, have more intense kits, and I think that they need to slow down and think about how they're adding characters into the game, because this could become sort of a I don't know, they could kind of oversupply the market with champions and kind of make it less of a big deal when a new champion comes out. And then if that happens, then less people will be interested, and then that would also hurt the market share and kind of just overall like the value of the game if they keep bringing down the value of new champions. So it's like any video game, when it's just like Call of Duty, when it's released too often, like one every year, eventually it kind of becomes a little repetitive, and they just produce too much content that it floods the market. And you don't want to do that with a successful game. So let's see. I'm just going to go through Tahm Kench's abilities here. We'll watch his video, and I'll just share some of my opinions. I already went through and read his abilities, so I could have some kind of insight on this, but we'll do it together quickly. Don't want to make this video too long for you guys. So let's just read this paragraph here. It says, we've almost finished dredging up League's latest monstrosity. Tahm Kench is tough solo lane or support tank with a taste for, well, pretty much anything. He'll happily munch down on an enemy champion once he's slathered them up, stowing them in his sizable belly, and out of a fight, while the River King's allies leverage their advantage. But Tahm Kench's stomach isn't reserved solely for his enemies. After swallowing an ally, the tanky fisherman can dive into one of his signature whirlpools before throwing himself towards the enemy team. So basically, just a quick overview, this champion basically eats other champions, as a general rule here. So what I think is interesting is that when they said it was going to be the River King, I totally thought, like everybody else, that it was going to be some kind of monster that had more abilities or maybe more movement in the river. A lot of people have been talking about that, kind of like a jungle champion that excels in the river parts of the map, which isn't that long, but would give them an advantage in that portion. But this is not that champion. He's just called the River King. Alright, so let's go ahead and play this passive ability. So I'll read this while it's going on. Let me just make sure the volume's not too loud. So Tahm Kench applies a stack of an acquired taste to all enemy champions he hits with basic attacks or damaging abilities. Once he's applied 3 stacks, he can interact with them differently. Sounds like something Freak would say. So basically, in the video you saw that it goes from gold to red to, I'm sorry, let's see, it goes from blue to gold to red. So there's 3 stages: blue, gold, red, and then once the red is up, then your other abilities will have different effects. So just remember that it's blue, gold, red. So then we have our Q, which is a tongue lash, and this is Tahm Kench roots himself briefly while launching his tongue in a target direction. Tongue lash stops once it hits an enemy, damaging and slowing whatever he hits. If Tahm Kench slathers an enemy champion with 3 stacks of an acquired taste, then he hits them with tongue lash. He stuns them instead. So basically, when you have your passive up, it becomes a stun. And the downside to this is that he does root himself here in the beginning, and I don't think he can move, while he's casting that ability. So you're definitely going to lose some movement speed. Obviously, if you're like running at someone, you're going to have to stop and cast this ability, but it's a nice, pretty guaranteed slow. That's a pretty wide radius. And then obviously, if they do have this stack, it's going to be a nice stun. Sort of like a lot of champions these days that have that, kind of like Braum. After you attack a couple times, it gives them a stun. But this one's a little bit has a little bit more play around, because you have to attack them 3 times and then use the ability, so it gives the opponent a chance to get away or fight back a little bit more, which I like. So it's nothing too overpowered here yet. Then we have W, which is Devour. So this is where we're getting into his abilities, where he's going to be able to eat something. So kind of like Syndra here, he can eat the minions and then he can throw them back out at a person and deal the damage to whoever they hit. So this is interesting. And you see here that as an overall statement that Tahm Kench briefly swallows a nearby target unit. Enemies suffer a portion of their max health as magic damage. So then you can take on an ally champion and then he's immune to damage, which is awesome. So you could either do this to a carry if a Ziggs ults the team. You could just devour your carry so he won't take damage. You could devour an enemy. I'm assuming you could devour your allied champion and then flash over a wall. So if your ADC doesn't have flash, you could take him over the wall with you. Or even then, if you're going to burn a flash, I think that'd be really interesting. You know, if you did that, you could devour them and save that kind of ability, which is really interesting. I'm trying to think like with Bard or any kind of other play that could involve. But basically, it is a nice defensive maneuver, and in a lot of situations, I think that's nice. And then enemy champions, you can only devour the enemy champions if your passive is stacked, so 3 hits, and then his movement speed is drastically reduced while enemy champions who suffer great. Oh, what does this say? Tahm Kench can only devour enemy champions once he's applied 3 stacks. We know that. His movement speed is drastically reduced, while enemy champs who suffer greatly reduced vision and can only see things immediately around the River King are in his belly. Okay, interesting. So let's watch this video, and I'm going to read that last sentence again because I'm kind of confused by what it said. That his movement speed is drastically reduced while enemy champs who suffer greatly reduced. Okay, they're saying that the enemy champions just suffer from greatly reduced vision and can only see things. So I don't know why they had to put the dash there. So it made it almost seem like that if he devoured enemies that had a certain kind of vision. I don't know why, but no, it just gives the enemy no vision or low vision. So let's just watch that one more time here. Basically, we have him eating the minion, throwing it back out at the enemy. He's not doing too much damage, but also applying a stack there, as you can see. So that's interesting because then it just takes 2 auto attacks. Then you see him, he's protecting Lucian, which is awesome, and it also canceled Vi's ult, so that has a lot of ult canceling abilities. And then you can see him just eating Twitch, and let's see how much damage this does. So a pretty significant amount of damage there, actually. So that's interesting. Seems like he could be really strong in a solo lane for sure with that kind of ability. Then we have E, which is Thick Skin. This is a very interesting ability. I think you guys will also find this pretty interesting. I'm probably going to full scale this video so you can see. But basically the passive, I'll play it and then I'll full screen it. So passive, all damage Tahm Kench takes is turned into gray health. Once he leaves combat, the gray health falls off, healing him for a portion of the amount of the gray health he's earned. And then the active converts this gray health to a shield instead of healing you right away. So this might sound confusing, but basically as damage is done, you have kind of a gray bar is left where your health was, and then you'll heal that back faster. And then I feel like that's also like a mechanic in like fighting games sometimes. When you take damage, it will come back if it's like a certain kind of ability. And then if you just use your active, it gives you kind of a shield that will fall off. So let's full screen this so you guys can see the gray health bar. I think this will make it a little bit easier. Let's see once this video clarity gets a little bit better here. So you can see he's doing damage and there's the gray bar there. And then as he stops, it's going to heal quickly, but it consumes the gray bar. So you don't get all of your health back, but it is very quick. And then this is interesting. Tristana's doing a ton of damage here. It's about more than half, and then he pops the shield, and then Tristana has to do that damage again. So at the end here, you see that if Tristana kept going, she would have killed Tahm Kench, but then with the shield, he basically gets another half of his health. So he has basically 1.5 times health in that scenario, which I think is pretty sweet. Definitely great from getting out of situations. Definitely a great defensive ability there, and unique as well, and not too overpowered for what it seems like, at least. Depends how much mana that cost and how much is up, because in lane that could make it really hard to trade with him, because he could basically survive a trade, especially if you're in like the bot lane as a support. He could do a lot of poking and then step out and use his Thick Skin to heal off the passive, which could be a little OP depending. So now on to his ultimate, last but not least. So this is Abyssal Voyage, and this is basically a Rek'Sai ult, but to any point in the map, and you can consume a character with you. So I'm assuming this is only allies, but let's give it a read. So passive, all of Tahm Kench's damage scales with his max of health, so that's why You could see him being a tank, I assume, because if you're building health, then you're also getting damage, which is interesting. I didn't realize the first time I went through this that was his passive. So a little strong there. We're leaning on OP with that passive. A lot of extra passive with all the new characters. They have a lot of passive abilities. Then the active is Tahm Kench opens his maw, offering an ally spot inside his belly. Once they jump in, or once Tahm Kench decides he's diving solo, he'll start the channel, and he launches to the target location. I don't need to finish saying that. It's basically a Rek'Sai ult. So this is going to be really great for ganks. You guys can take it. So he's channeling here. Let's see. This is about 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. So like 4 or 5 seconds, maybe 4 to 6 seconds, depending on the first cooldown. And then it travels to the mid lane pretty quickly here. So Lucian pops in as 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 seconds. So overall 10 seconds to get from, let's see what it says here in the video if we keep this up. 10 seconds to get from top lane with Lucian to the mid lane. In under 10 seconds. So it's a pretty cool move. Obviously this could be used in a lot of different ways as a utility ability, as a gank. You could obviously travel underground, and I'm assuming that's probably something like the max range. It's not the across the entire map, but it is pretty long, so less than Rek'Sai's, but very interesting. This could be used to get back to lane, a ton of different stuff, and obviously a lot of mobility will make him viable in the current meta play style and overall with the new champions. So pretty interesting. I'm definitely interested for him to come out and see how he plays. It looks kind of like a Renekton and Twitch put together here. And like I said, I see him being support. It seems like so many characters can play support now. I could also see him top lane with that passive. It's just so strong with the all passive. And obviously, they didn't mention anything here about jungling, but with that ult, that just seems really cool. I don't know if he will have enough damage with his kit, but could be something with that passive that could make it doable, especially with a Cinderhulk and his passive. Could be nice. And then especially with his E, if he regains health, I could definitely see him jungling. So they're just gonna put some quick synergies and counters. So synergies would be Swain, Kog'Maw, Sejuani, and struggles against Vayne, Janna, and Gnar. So pretty interesting. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and Blitz 5, I am out.